You didn't know I could do this, huh? Good morning. Buenos dias. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. I am Reverend Nell Newton, and I serve as your assistant minister. Let us begin by recognizing the early name of this place, Yanaguana, the traditional lands of the Coahuiltecan people, and they and all of the plants and animals were the original stewards of this land. Let us remember their care and live with the understanding that we belong to this place. This morning, we come here to enact a universal love that binds us to one another in mutual care and affection. Our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all. If you are new to us or visiting for the very first time today, we welcome you and invite you to fill out a visitor's card. We'd like to get to know you. I promise you we will not bug you much, but we will follow up with you. And wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope that you will find a place here with us. This morning, I am especially happy to welcome back my colleague, Reverend Anthony Jenkins. Reverend Jenkins serves as the chaplain for the 59th Training Group located at the Medical Education and Training Campus at Fort Sam Houston. His full bio is in your order of service. And like you, like each one of you, he is grace incarnate. Now, because of this, in our tradition, we believe that each person is grace incarnate. Each person carries a spark of the divine, a Buddha seed within them. And so at this time, I invite you to turn to one another and greet the sparks that are shimmering all around you.
I'm sorry, it was assertive. It was very assertive. Well, good morning, family. First things first, thank you, Reverend Nell, for this return invite. Most grateful to be struck twice by the loving lightning of this place. First, you, at this most thunderous time on the calendar. Last Sunday of Black History Month, just a few days before the first day of Women's History Month. No greater way to rise to both of those occasions than to bow our heads and open our minds to the visionary faith healer, freedom fighter, force of nature, Harriet Tubman. Most people have wrapped their heads around the Underground Railroad conductor part. What is over most people's heads, and way over my pay grade, is that she was also a U.S. Army veteran, nurse, cook, scout, translator, counterintelligence, counterterrorism, special forces team leader. First woman in U.S. military history ever to lead an armed expedition. There must be a goddess somewhere. Took the U.S. government a shamefully long time to acknowledge and honor her service, and even longer to pay her for it. Ironically, in theory, she will be the face of the $20 bill by the year 2030. Though I'm sure the critics of critical race theory will be in no hurry to cash those. I am in uniform this morning because Harriet Tubman was never allowed to be. And to honor her Medal of Honor worthy service and the great debt we all owe to the woman codenamed Moses. I invite you to please rise as you are able in mind, body, or spirit. Join us in singing verses 1 and 2 of this morning's opening hymn, number 104, When Israel Was in Egypt's Land, Go Down, Moses. In ancient Hebrew, wisdom is a feminine noun. For many ancient Greeks and Gnostics, aka first century OG Christians, wisdom is the divine feminine goddess Sophia, name which translates to clever, skillful, intelligent, discerning, wise. 13 old school Gnostic gospels were discovered buried in a hidden jar in 1945 in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. One of them composed by a distinctly divine feminine Sophia-like voice. There must be a goddess somewhere. We'll light our chalice this morning with some fire from that Gnostic scripture called the Thunder, Perfect Mind. For I am the wisdom of the Greeks. I am one whose image is great in Egypt. You awaiting me, take me to yourselves. Do not banish me from before your eyes. Do not let your voice be hateful toward me, nor your hearing. Do not be ignorant of me in any place at any time. I am the knowledge of my name. For I am the first and the last. I am the honored and the scorned. I am the mother and the daughter. I have had many weddings, and I have taken no partner. I am a midwife and a woman who does not give birth. Do not disregard me. Do not fear my power, for I am present in all fears, and I am strength in agitation. I am silence that is incomprehensible, an insight whose memory is great. I am the voice whose sounds are many, and the word whose appearances are many. I am the woman crying out, and I am cast upon the face of the earth. I am the utterance of my own name. If you would join us now in reciting our congregational covenant, which should be on your bulletin and maybe up on the board as well. We'll do it in English first and then in Spanish after, all together.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia. Su sacramento es la búsqueda de la verdad. Y su oración es el servicio. Convivir en paz, buscar sabiduría en libertad, dar a la humanidad nuestro servicio fraternal, para que todas las almas crezcan en armonía con la divinidad. Así pactamos el uno con el otro.
For I am the first and the last. I am the honored and the scorned. I am the mother and the daughter. I have had many weddings, and I have taken no partner. I am a midwife and a woman who does not give birth. I am the voice whose sounds are many, and the word whose appearances are many. I am the woman crying out, and I am cast upon the face of the earth. I am the utterance of my own name. My birth name was actually Araminta, a word which translates fittingly in Old English to prayer and protection. Family and friends knew me by the nickname Minty. The world would come to know me by my mother's name, Harriet, which I later adopted as my own. And many others would know me by my code name, Moses. I was the voice whose sounds were many. I was also the word whose appearances were many. Many of your present-day scholars say, I appeared in this life on January 29th, 1822, near the Blackwater River and Blackwater Refuge on Maryland's eastern shore, based in large part on the payment receipts of the midwife who delivered me. I would spend my life being a refuge, returning to Maryland many times to deliver many enslaved brown angels across the border to freedom in the north. Never the same path twice. I was born into the injustice of domestic terrorism, slavery. The sixth of 9 children, the last of which was actually named Moses. One day, our owner tried to sell Moses. My mom threatened to split our owner's head open, and he quickly reconsidered. You could say armed resistance ran in my blood. My mother was a house slave, cooking for that owner's family around the clock. House slaves had little, if any, family time. So I was the mother and the daughter. And I was a midwife, trusted to help with the birthing and the raising of my younger siblings. I would not give birth physically in this life, though I would later adopt a daughter. I'd say I became a kind of surrogate mother. Many trusted me with their lives and were reborn free in the promised land. My parents' faith was Christian. My personal faith was in the God of the Old Testament, justice, not so much the New Testament, gentleness. Like the prophet Moses, I had a visionary kind of faith. I was devoted to deliverance. In my teens, I once refused to help a nearby slave owner restrain a slave who had left the field without permission. The owner threw a 2-pound weight through the air at him, missed over his head, and hit me instead, nearly splitting my head wide open. For the rest of my life, that traumatic brain injury would give me crippling headaches and epileptic seizures. But for the rest of my life, it also gave me inner sight. I became a wounded warrior with deeply profound dreams and prophetic visions that I trusted to guide many lives to glory. There must be a goddess somewhere. I married a free man, John Tubman, in 1844. Shortly thereafter, my family's owner died, and his widow tried again to sell me and my siblings. I was determined not to wait or leave it up to fate. My husband, John, however, was not on the same sheet of music. He said he would neither join me on my escape nor follow me north for my own freedom. I took his name. Apparently, I had taken no partner. I once said that slavery was the closest thing to hell, which I trusted had no fury like this woman scorned. I also said that I once had a right to one of two things, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. I was the woman crying out, and I was cast upon the face of the earth. I was the utterance of my own name.
Each week, we bring our whole selves to this time and this place. And our whole selves include worries and fears, happiness and contentment. And all of these can reside in our hearts simultaneously. So at this time, I invite you to come forward and light a candle of joy or sorrow, or a mixture of both, with the hope that each small flame will guide our hearts towards love. For candles lit, and for candles lit only in our hearts, let us give thanks. And from our book of joy and sorrows, we are truly joyful for the beautiful roses donated today by our own beautiful Lorelei Lambert. And we hold sympathy for the family of Andrew and Heather Gonzalez. Heather's mother, Denise Radcliffe, died on Friday, and they are feeling this loss. Gracias por incluirnos de sus buenos deseos. We are so sorry to hear of the passing of Rupp. Sorry. Sometimes U's can look like I's. Nevin and his wife Suzanne were longtime members, and we hope that everyone who knew and loved them will be able to attend the celebration of Nevin's life that will be held here on Friday. And we are also recognizing and celebrating the lives of Elaine Talansky and Frank Schrock, who gave so much to the San Antonio community in their long lives. May the caring of our community offer a space of deep kindness, loving, and just action. And today we're doing things a little differently, if you haven't noticed. So there will be no story time, but there will be playtime. So for the children who wish to stay with their families, they are welcome to do so. But for the children who would like to go out to the playground, let us sing our children to their joy.
Everybody all right so far? Do not disregard me. Do not fear my power, for I am present in all fears. I am strength in agitation. I am silence that is incomprehensible, an insight whose memory is great. I am the voice whose sounds are many, and the word whose appearances are many. I am the knowledge of my own name. It was a silent night in September of 1849, if memory serves. 27 years a slave, and I was plenty agitated. My power was this knowledge. Before I'd spend another night being a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free. Now is the time for liberty or death. I didn't fear either. One way or another, I would steal myself away from this Egypt. Under the quilt of that night, I fled for freedom, singing my first soft black border song, a solo, on the Underground Railroad. The symphony of secret routes and safe houses that led escaped enslavees to the free states in the northern U.S. and Canada, with the help of both free blacks and white allies. By law, I was a fugitive. Any slave catcher could deliver me immediately back to my master for a reward. So I traveled only at night by the light of the North Star, Polaris, and I trusted it with my life. By day, I often posed as a slave pretending to work at the homes of abolitionists, hiding in carts or crawl spaces or Quaker sanctuaries. I adopted many disguises, accents, dialects, code words, and identities so that I would be disregarded, switching codes to avoid capture. I never learned to read words, but I learned very early how to read people. So you could say military intelligence and counterintelligence was in my blood. I was the word whose appearances were many. Much like Moses, a river was my refuge. I made my way north along the Choptank riverbank through Delaware, finally across the border into the promised land of Pennsylvania. I later said, when I crossed over to the other side, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. The world silently golden. I recall there being such a glory over everything, but I couldn't let go of the silent memory of my people, my friends, my family back home. The injustice of me being free while they remained in chains, to me, was incomprehensible. Like Moses, I heard perfectly the thunder of the divine's distant talking drum. I knew in my mind that the pharaohs, the slave owners, would never just let my people go. But mine eyes had seen the glory. So I set my mind to going back down behind enemy lines to guide my loved ones to freedom's perfect peace of mind. There must be a goddess somewhere. Your present-day scholars say I led 13 of these search and rescue missions over 11 years as an Underground Railroad conductor, delivered some 70 souls across the border, and advised many more. Most of my passengers were perfect strangers, but they all trusted me perfectly with their lives. I trusted my divine spark. I trusted my visions to guide us through those hard nights. I trusted my disguises to hide us, sometimes in plain sight. I trusted my knowledge of the pathways and the waterways. I rolled in the thunder of signal intelligence, the spirituals I sang to alert my passengers to any danger present along the path. I trusted the combat outposts, the homes of many guardian angels along the way like William Still, Thomas Garrett, and Frederick Douglass. I also trusted my revolver, partly to protect us from slave catchers and bloodhounds, partly to ensure that no passengers heeded any fear-filled temptations to flee back to their plantations. You go on or you die, I'd say to would-be deserters, liberty or death. And I never lost a passenger, not even to friendly fire. In truth, they didn't need to fear my power, for I was present in all their fears. I was strength in agitation. I was the knowledge of my own name.
The offering is a sacrament of the free church. Today's offering will be dedicated to support the care and maintenance of the facilities of our campus. Our facilities are well used, and although we budget for maintenance and repairs every year, that amount can quickly be depleted with unexpected repairs. So the contributions you make today will help keep our church facilities safe and welcoming. Please be generous. you are the joy. There must be a joy. We bless these gifts, and we bless you as givers. May it be so.
Everybody still on board? For I am the wisdom of the Greeks. I am one whose image is great in Egypt. You awaiting me, take me to yourselves. Do not banish me from before your eyes. Do not let your voice be hateful toward me, nor your hearing. Do not be ignorant of me in any place, at any time. I am the utterance of my own name. I was all of 5 feet tall, the notorious small, but I contained multitudes. By the late 1850s, my high-value target image had become great in Egypt. The pharaohs both hated and feared me as I was way over their head. But they could neither ignore nor banish me, despite their best efforts. Freedom fighters like John Brown revered my divine feminine gospel, sought my tactical counsel as they heard word of my wisdom. And my knowledge of nature, my geographic intelligence. In 1859, I would buy my own piece of nature in Auburn, New York, from a senator, an abode with a promised land zip code. Abolitionists and activists invited me often to speak because I could speak the language of the oppressed while also voicing the mindset of the oppressors. I was, in military terms, a 9 lima, interpreter, translator. And I was the wisdom of all my collected accents, dialects, disguises, identities, and successful Black operations. I was the word whose appearances were many. The Civil War broke out in 1861. Many enslaved Black souls in the South broke out of plantations and escaped to Union Army forts in the North. Yet, even in the Promised Land, they were considered contraband, seized property. Forced early on by some hateful Union generals to work without pay while having their field song music, their intellectual property, stolen out of thin air. One such song was seized from Black voices at Fort Monroe, Virginia in 1862, a border song I'd sung over many bowed heads on the Underground Railroad in the decade before, when Israel was in Egypt's land. Let my people go, go down Moses. I volunteered to go down to the Union Army's Port Royal camp in South Carolina's Hilton Head district. At first, I was a nurse, caring for agitated Black escapees, and then also for white Union soldiers. I trusted my own healing remedies from nature, plants, to help fight outbreaks of smallpox and dysentery in the Union's fighting forces. Many soldiers in need came to know my name and to trust it. In 1863, Lincoln's long overdue proclamation of my people's emancipation rolled like thunder through our minds' eyes. Slavery was banished. For the first time, we dared to dream of the sweet smell of freedom's roses, and for the first time, we Blacks, the Israelites, were allowed to join our own freedom fight. I had already been trusted to secretly lead a special team of Union Army scouts at Port Royal, South Carolina, under the unofficially official orders of Lincoln's Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton. I had top-level code word clearance. My knowledge of Mother Nature's fields made me the equivalent of a field-grade officer, 06, give or take, a special force in Black operations, reporting directly to the White House. South Carolina's rivers and marshes were much like the ones I had known on Maryland's eastern shore. Union generals trusted their men's lives to my Special Forces team's maps and reconnaissance. My unit supplied the key intelligence that led to the Union's capture of Jacksonville, Florida. I remembered how to silently, secretly, and safely navigate forces through the dark wilderness while overmatched and under fire. I was silence that was incomprehensible, and insight whose memory was great. And my greatest Army memory was June 2nd, 1863. The Combahee River was our refuge. Under the quilt of that night, I guided 3 Union Army steamboats around Confederate water mines and torpedoes safely to shore, due largely to the intelligence collected from area slaves by my team. In so doing, I became the first woman trusted to lead an armed expedition in U.S. military history. There must be a goddess somewhere. I sang 750 enslaved brown angels, prisoners of war, onto those ships of liberty, welcoming their uplifted voices to the other side with "Go Down, Moses," according to memoirs. I continued to aid the Union Army until the war ended in 1865, though in hindsight, I was probably more like a Navy SEAL, sea, air, and land, than an Army soldier. I was paid less than $200 for all of my service. My recruited requests for a military pension were ignored. In 1888, I was granted a benefit of $8 a month, a widow's pension, after the death of my second husband, Nelson, a veteran. In 1899, my voice was finally heard, but I was only granted $20 a month, a nurse's pension. Still, I would rise. I'd go on to spend the rest of my life advocating for civil rights and women's suffrage. I would die with few possessions and almost no money, but I crossed over death's border with few regrets and no fears. I had been a prophet, but probably more like Moses' brother Aaron than Moses. Moses was born a slave, but was soon adopted by Pharaoh's family, raised in royalty. Aaron, on the other hand, was a prophet born and raised in slavery on Egypt's eastern shore, Goshen. Aaron fought for his freedom and served faithfully as Moses' interpreter-translator, both to the oppressor and the oppressed. I was the knowledge of my code name. And in the sunlight of my last silence, I knew I had been a redeeming strength in agitation, that my voice had birthed freedom, and that the holy thunder of my words had forked liberty's lightning. I had been insight whose memory and lasting image was great. Buried at last in 1913 with military honors over my headstone at Fort Hill Cemetery in my adopted home of Auburn, New York. There must be a goddess somewhere. I am your knowledge of my wisdom. I am the utterance of my own name. Amen? I invite you to please rise as you are able in mind, body, or spirit. We're going to finish out as we came in, closing hymn 104, When Israel Was in Egypt's Land, verses 3 and 4. This morning's last words are from a 2008 Black History Month piece written in the voice of Harriet Tubman, composed almost entirely of titles of children's books by African-American authors. We'll leave you with this tapestry woven by the poet Elaine Magliaro called Harriet Tubman Speaks. Hush, my brown angels. Listen to the distant talking drum. Hear it spin a soft black song under the quilt of night. I'm only passing through, going someplace special to the other side, where there's a sweet smell of roses and freedom like sunlight. I've seen the promised land, a place for all colors of the race. Now is your time to be freedom walkers. Follow me on the road north to Liberty Street. Come with me to the other side, where we will make a joyful sound. We will lift every voice and sing, sing to the sun, sing, free at last. Ashe. Blessed be.